Do you know that the deadliest poison in the world isn't found in a snake, but hidden inside a silent, standing plant? In today's episode of Nature's Armory, we're going to unmask 15 plants so dangerous that even a single drop can be enough to stop your breathing. But pay close attention. At number 3, there's a plant that looks completely harmless, just like small berries, yet one single bite can paralyze your entire nervous system. At number 9, we'll uncover a plant whose poison was once the first choice of history's silent killers, used when no one was supposed to know the truth. And number 13. This one is so deadly it's known as the suicide tree, because even touching it can be a message of death. So learn to recognize these 15 plants, because knowing them might be the only thing that keeps you and your family safe. Let's begin with number 1, which might already be growing closer than you think. Number 1, Castor Bean, the silent seed. At first glance, this plant doesn't look threatening at all. The seeds are smooth, patterned, almost polished, like tiny decorative stones. In fact, many people have grown it simply because it looks unusual and attractive. But that calm appearance hides something far more dangerous. Inside those small seeds is a toxin known as ricin, one of the most powerful natural poisons ever discovered. Once it enters the body, it targets your cells at the most basic level. It shuts down the process your body uses to produce essential proteins. And when that system stops, your body begins to fail from the inside, slowly and silently. What makes this even more disturbing is how little it takes. Just 3 to 4 seeds, so small you might not even think twice about them, can be enough to cause fatal damage. There's no immediate warning, no clear signal. The effect builds quietly, giving the illusion that everything is normal until it isn't. This isn't just theory. There have been real cases where ricin was used in targeted attacks because of how effective and difficult it is to detect. It doesn't rely on force, it works in silence. Now think about where this plant grows. It's not hidden in remote forests. It can be found along roadsides, in open areas, even near places people walk every day. Someone could pass by it without ever realizing what it contains. And that's what makes it truly dangerous. Not how it looks, but how easily it can be ignored. Number 2, Rosary Pea, the jeweler's curse. These seeds look almost too perfect to be real. Bright red, smooth, with a single black mark, like they were carefully designed instead of naturally grown. For years, people used them in jewelry and decoration because of how striking and uniform they are. But that beauty is deeply misleading. Inside these small seeds is a toxin called Abrus, one of the most potent plant-based poisons known. Once it enters the bloodstream, it interferes with the body's ability to produce proteins, causing cells to shut down one by one. And here's the part that's hard to believe. It doesn't take much. A microscopic amount, less than a grain of salt, can be enough to cause severe damage. That's how concentrated the effect is. Something so small, yet so powerful. There's a reason this plant earned a dark reputation. In the past, jewelers used these seeds as weight measures because each one is nearly identical. But while handling them, even a tiny crack or accidental puncture could expose them to the toxin. Many didn't realize the danger until it was too late. That's why it became known as the jeweler's curse. Now imagine seeing these seeds today. To someone who doesn't know, they look harmless, almost inviting. Something you might pick up out of curiosity. But that's exactly where the risk begins. Because sometimes, the most dangerous things in nature are the ones that look the most perfect. Number 3, Oleander, the beautiful killer. This is one of the most common ornamental plants you'll see around you, lining roads, decorating gardens, adding color to quiet spaces. The flowers are soft, elegant, and calming, exactly what you'd expect from something meant to beautify an environment. But that's where the illusion begins. Every part of this plant contains compounds known as cardiac glycosides, substances that directly affect the heart. Once inside the body, they interfere with the electrical signals that control your heartbeat. the rhythm becomes unstable, irregular, and in serious cases, it can stop entirely. What makes this even more concerning is how little exposure is needed. Even small amounts, from leaves, stems, or flowers, can be enough to create dangerous effects. For animals, the risk is even higher, as their bodies react more quickly and more severely. There have been real incidents where this plant caused harm simply because people didn't recognize the danger. It looks safe, it feels normal, and that's exactly why it's underestimated. Now think about how common it is. This plant is everywhere. Public spaces, private homes, areas where children play and pets move freely. And that's what makes it truly dangerous. Because no one expects something this beautiful to carry a risk this real. Number 4. Water hemlock, the violent poison. At first glance, this plant looks completely harmless. It resembles wild parsley or even a simple roadside herb. Thin stems, small white flowers, nothing about it feels threatening. In fact, many people mistake it for edible plants. But that mistake can be deadly. This plant contains a toxin called Cicuta, one of the most violent natural poisons found in North America. The moment it enters the body, it attacks the central nervous system. It doesn't act slowly. It doesn't give time to react. It disrupts the normal signals between the brain and the body, causing uncontrollable convulsions. What makes this even more terrifying is how quickly it works. A small piece of the root, not even the entire plant, can be enough to trigger severe reactions. Within a short time, the body can lose control completely. There is no gradual warning, just a sudden, overwhelming response. Historically, this plant has been responsible for many accidental poisonings because of how similar it looks to edible herbs. People believed they were harvesting something safe, until it was too late. And that's what makes it so dangerous. It doesn't rely on rarity or hidden locations. It grows in open fields, near water sources, places where people walk without thinking twice. Because sometimes, the most dangerous threats in nature are the ones that look the most familiar. Number 5. Monkshood, wolfsbane, the assassin's poison. This plant looks like something out of a fairy tale. Deep blue-purple flowers shaped like small helmets, almost elegant in appearance. It's the kind of flower you'd expect to see in a peaceful garden. But behind that beauty lies a history filled with fear. This plant contains aconitum, a toxin that directly affects the nervous system and the heart. Once it enters the body, it begins to interfere with the electrical signals that control movement and heartbeat. The result is a dangerous combination of numbness, irregular heart rhythm, and loss of control. What makes this plant stand out is that it doesn't always require ingestion. Even touching it without protection can allow small amounts of toxin to enter through the skin. That's how potent it is. In ancient times, this plant was used as a weapon. Hunters coated their arrows with its extract to bring down animals quickly. Warriors used it in battle. It wasn't just feared, it was respected. That's why it earned the name wolfsbane, because it was used to kill wolves. Now imagine this: a flower that looks calm, decorative, almost magical. And yet, it carries a history of being used as a silent weapon. And that contrast is what makes it unforgettable. Because sometimes, what looks like beauty is actually built for destruction. Number 6. Deadly nightshade tropa, the sweet illusion. This plant doesn't try to hide behind complexity. It attracts attention directly. Dark berries, smooth, shiny, almost like small cherries. To someone who doesn't know better, they can look edible, even tempting. But that temptation is the danger. This plant contains powerful compounds that affect the nervous system. Once inside the body, they interfere with normal brain signals, causing confusion, hallucinations, and loss of control over basic functions. What makes it even more dangerous is the illusion it creates. The berries taste slightly sweet. There's no immediate signal that something is wrong. That delay makes it even more deceptive, because by the time symptoms begin, the toxin has already started affecting the body. Historically, this plant has a dark reputation. It was used in ancient times not only for poison, but also for altering appearance. Women used small doses to dilate their pupils, believing it made them more attractive. But the line between dose and danger was extremely thin. That's where the real risk lies. A plant that looks inviting, behaves calmly at first, and then slowly takes control. Now imagine someone seeing those berries for the first time. No warning, no fear, just curiosity. And that's exactly what makes it dangerous. Because sometimes, the sweetest illusion hides the darkest reality. Number 7. White snakeroot, the hidden killer. This plant doesn't look dangerous at all. It grows quietly in fields and forest edges, with small clusters of white flowers that blend naturally into the environment. Nothing about it stands out. In fact, most people wouldn't even notice it, and that's exactly what makes it dangerous. This plant doesn't just affect those who touch it, it can harm indirectly. It contains a toxin called trematol, which enters the body of grazing animals that eat it. The real danger begins when that toxin passes through the food chain. When contaminated milk or meat is consumed, the toxin slowly builds inside the human body. It doesn't act instantly. Instead, it causes weakness, loss of control, and eventually severe poisoning. What makes this truly unsettling is how invisible the threat is. You don't see it happening. You don't smell it. You don't feel it right away. The toxin moves silently from plant to animal to human. In the 19th century, this plant was responsible for a mysterious illness known as milk sickness. Entire families were affected, and for a long time, no one understood why. Even Abraham Lincoln's mother is believed to have died from this exact cause. Now imagine that, a simple plant growing unnoticed, causing harm without direct contact, without warning. Because sometimes, the most dangerous things in nature don't attack directly. They wait and move through what you trust the most. Number 8. Manchineel tree, the tree of death. At first glance, this tree looks peaceful. Green leaves, small fruit that resemble apples, and a calm presence near coastal areas. In fact, someone unfamiliar might think it's a perfect place to rest under. But that decision could come with serious consequences. This tree produces a highly toxic sap that reacts instantly with the skin. Even standing beneath it during rain can be dangerous, because water dripping from its leaves carries the toxin down. Contact can cause severe irritation, blistering, and burning sensations. And it doesn't stop there. The fruit, often called the little apple of death, looks harmless, even edible. But consuming it can lead to intense internal reactions, including burning sensations in the mouth and throat. What makes this tree so feared is how many ways it can affect you. Touching it, standing near it, eating its fruit. Almost every interaction carries a risk. Historically, warnings about this tree have been so serious that some regions mark it clearly to prevent accidental contact. Yet, despite that, incidents still happen, mostly because people underestimate it. Now imagine walking along a beach, looking for shade, and choosing the wrong tree. That's what makes it unforgettable. Because sometimes, danger doesn't hide in darkness. It stands right in front of you, waiting to be ignored. Number 9. Jimsonweed, the mind breaker. This plant doesn't rely on appearance to attract attention. Its spiky seed pods and trumpet-shaped flowers already give it a strange, almost unsettling look. But the real danger isn't what you see, it's what it does to the mind. Inside this plant are compounds that affect the brain directly. Once inside the body, they interfere with how signals are processed, blurring the line between reality and illusion. What makes this especially dangerous is how unpredictable the effects can be. A small exposure might cause confusion. A larger one can lead to intense hallucinations, loss of awareness, and a complete disconnect from reality. The person may not understand what's happening or how to stop it. And the most disturbing part? During these episodes, people often lose the ability to recognize danger. They may act without awareness, putting themselves at risk without even realizing it. Historically, This plant has been linked to incidents where groups of people unknowingly consumed it and experienced severe psychological effects. Some accounts describe individuals wandering aimlessly, unable to tell what was real and what wasn't. Now imagine losing control, not of your body, but of your mind. That's what makes this plant so dangerous. Because sometimes, the worst damage isn't physical, it's losing control of what's real. Number 10. Angels trump the mind thief. At first glance, this plant looks almost unreal. Large, hanging flowers shaped like trumpets, soft colors, and a calm, almost peaceful presence. It's the kind of plant people stop and admire. But that beauty hides something far more disturbing. This plant contains compounds that directly affect the brain, particularly the parts responsible for awareness, memory, and control. Once inside the body, these substances can cause a complete loss of orientation, not just confusion, but a state where the person no longer understands what is real. What makes this especially dangerous is how subtle it can begin. At first, there may be mild disorientation, a sense that something feels off, but very quickly, it can escalate into full hallucinations, memory loss, and an inability to recognize surroundings or even people. And the most frightening part? People under its influence often lose control without realizing it. They may move, speak, or act, but with no awareness of their actions. Later, they may not remember anything at all. In certain regions, this plant has gained a dark reputation because of how it has been misused. Stories exist of individuals losing hours or even days of memory after exposure. Now imagine that. You're awake, moving, interacting, but you're no longer in control of your own mind, because sometimes the most dangerous poisons don't attack the body first, they take the mind. Number 11. Lily of the Valley, the heart disruptor. This plant looks like something out of a peaceful garden. Small, bell-shaped white flowers, delicate and pure, often associated with calm and beauty. It's commonly used in decorations and even special occasions. But behind that softness is something far more serious. This plant contains multiple compounds that directly affect the heart. These substances interfere with the electrical signals that keep your heartbeat stable. Once disrupted, the rhythm becomes irregular, unpredictable, and in severe cases, unable to continue normally. What makes this plant so deceptive is how harmless it appears. Nothing about it suggests danger. No sharp edges, no warning signs. Just small, gentle flowers that seem completely safe. And yet, even a small amount can affect the body in a significant way. Historically, there have been cases where this plant was mistaken for edible herbs, leading to serious consequences. The similarity in appearance has caused confusion, and that confusion has made it dangerous. Now think about that. A plant that looks calm, peaceful, even comforting, but once inside the body, it directly interferes with the one system. You rely on it to stay alive. Because sometimes, danger doesn't come from what looks threatening. It comes from what looks completely safe. Number 12. Tobacco, the familiar poison. This is a plant almost everyone recognizes. It doesn't carry the same mysterious image as others. It's familiar, common, something people think they understand. And that's exactly what makes it different. In its raw form, this plant contains nicotine in concentrations that can be extremely dangerous. Once it enters the body in high amounts, it affects both the nervous system and the heart. It overstimulates signals, pushing the body beyond its normal limits. What makes this plant stand out is the contrast between perception and reality. Because of its widespread use, many people underestimate it. They don't see it as a natural toxin. They see it as something controlled, processed, familiar. But in its natural state, the concentration is much stronger and far less predictable. A high exposure can lead to rapid changes in heart rate, breathing difficulty, and a breakdown of normal body function. Historically, this plant has been used not only for consumption, but also as a natural pesticide. because of how effective it is at disrupting biological systems. Now think about that. Something so familiar, so normalized, yet powerful enough to affect the body in ways most people don't expect. Because sometimes the greatest danger is not the unknown, it's what you think you already understand. Number 13. Suicide tree, the perfect murder weapon. At first glance, this tree looks completely ordinary. Green leaves, small fruit, nothing about it feels unusual. In fact, to someone unfamiliar, it might look like just another tropical plant growing quietly in the background. But that quiet presence hides something far more dangerous. Inside its seeds is a toxin called cerberin, a compound that directly targets the heart. Once it enters the body, it interferes with the electrical signals that keep the heart beating. The rhythm slows, becomes unstable, and eventually stops. What makes this even more disturbing is how it works. It doesn't create an obvious reaction. It doesn't leave clear traces. In many cases, it can pass through the body in a way that makes it extremely difficult to detect, and that's exactly why it gained its dark reputation. In parts of history, this plant was linked to cases where people died without clear explanation. Later studies revealed that it had been used in silent poisonings because it could be mixed without being easily noticed. That's why it's often called the perfect murder weapon. Now imagine that. A plant that doesn't look dangerous, doesn't act loudly, but works silently and effectively. Because sometimes, the most dangerous things don't make noise at all. Number 14. Yew tree, the tree of death. This tree has been around for centuries. Tall, dark green, often found in quiet places like old gardens, forests, and even graveyards. It has a calm, almost ancient presence, like it's been watching time pass. But behind that stillness lies a powerful truth. Almost every part of this tree contains toxic compounds known as toxins. These substances interfere directly with the heart, disrupting its rhythm and preventing it from functioning normally. What makes this tree especially dangerous is how complete the risk is. Leaves, bark, seeds, almost everything carries the toxin. Only a small part of the fruit itself is considered safe, but everything around it is not. And the effect? Rapid, silent, difficult to reverse. Historically, this tree has always been surrounded by mystery and fear. It has been associated with death, not just symbolically, but physically. That's why it earned the name. The tree of death. Now imagine standing near something so still, so quiet, so ancient, and knowing that within it lies a substance powerful enough to stop the heart. Because sometimes, the oldest things in nature carry the deepest dangers. Number 15. Jimpy Jimpy, the suicide plant. This plant doesn't look terrifying. Large green leaves, soft appearance, something you might brush past without a second thought. But this is where appearance becomes dangerously misleading, because this plant doesn't rely on poison you consume. It attacks the moment you touch it. Its surface is covered in microscopic needle-like hairs, so fine they look almost invisible. The moment they come into contact with skin, they inject a powerful neurotoxin. And the pain? It's been described as one of the most intense natural sensations a human can experience. A burning feeling combined with electric shock that can last not for minutes, not for hours, but for months. And in some cases, even longer. There are historical accounts where people exposed to this plant experienced such severe pain that they couldn't tolerate it. The suffering wasn't just physical, it became psychological. That's why it earned its name. The suicide plant. Now imagine that. Not something you eat, not something you inhale, just a simple touch. And the effect begins instantly. Because sometimes, the most dangerous plants don't need to enter your body, they just need to touch your skin. Now I want to ask you, out of these 15 deadly plants, which one shocked you the most? And more importantly, have you ever seen any of these around you? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Nature's Armory exists for one reason: to help you understand the hidden dangers around you and keep you and the people around you aware and safe. If you think this knowledge matters, share this video with someone who should see it. But don't leave yet. If you found this video intense, then you're not ready for what comes next. On your screen right now, you'll see another video where nature does something completely different, not dangerous, but it was unbelievable. 15 plants that look exactly like parts of the human body. Click on that video, and I'll see you there.